Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly. It's your friend Rick, and today we have Marcelo Lebre, who's the co-founder, president, and CTO at Remote. So for those of you that don't know, Remote is a global payroll tax, HR, and compliance solution for distributed teams. They enable companies of all sizes to hire anyone, anywhere in the world. And the company's recent public valuation was more than $3 billion. It comes as this great confluence of events of HR tech being very hot, distributed payroll and embedded payroll are really top of mind for companies. And of course, this remote work from home distributed workforce that we have, just really part of this like global economy here. For some context for you all, Marcelo has spent his career as a product-oriented engineer, building products and scaling architectures and teams. Before Remote, he was previously vice president of engineering at Unbabel and CTO at many different companies and firms, including Faber Ventures in Portugal. So thanks for coming on the show, Marcelo.
Thank you.
So, I mean, with such a really great like operator entrepreneur background, I think our audience would be really interested in learning about kind of your career path, your career arc. Can you walk us through that?
Well, I'm going to try to skip the boring parts.
Okay.
That's always good.
Yeah. Anyway, I at college, a computer science degree. I was a researcher in Internet of Things, sensor networks for a couple of years. Then my problem with research was that it was leading to nowhere. And it's a common problem in academia is that you're working, but it's hard to materialize because, most stuff it gets, put on the shelf. So anyway, I went into what used to be called industry, working for real companies, making real money. And I joined the big company in Portugal, big consulting company. And, the first few months I thought, what a huge mistake. I'm no one in this company. No one knows my name. No one knows who I am. Doesn't matter how hard I work. And because, it felt, for second job, it felt kind of too big. I felt like maybe I need something where I can actually learn, contribute, and grow rather than just be this one number in a big spreadsheet. So I started sort of in the coming years going from bigger companies to smaller companies, making my way into smaller until I started my own stuff. I met my co-founder in 2012, and Job, who's today the CEO of my co-founder at Remote, and we started this, job platform at the time. It's just nothing. We tried to get some investment, and people were like, "You just don't know anything. Just go home."
Oh no!
Stop playing entrepreneur, and we're crushed. But we kept going, and over the years, this was like 12 years ago or something, and we kept building stuff on the side. Some people, you go play soccer with your friends, or you have other activities, and we would build things on the side. So I joined a couple of companies, started a couple, joined as CTO as well, and eventually fast forward a lot of stuff, a lot of companies and teams, as growing up as an engineer, career ladder. Unbabel was a great company to work at, and I was very happy as well. But Job and I kept discussing, when are we going to actually go back to building something we actually sell? Because we had built many different products across the years, but we never sold any because we had fun building things, but we would eventually just, not have the gumption of trying to go for a sell. And they're very cool products that we actually built and used. But, we were like, nah, we have our own career. So we're going to waste time on trying to, follow through something that's not going to lead anywhere. Anyway, we got to a day where it was like, we know enough. We've met enough people. we've done enough things, we've built so many different teams, successful companies. When are we going to do our own thing? And then we started talking quite a lot about the things that we're passionate about. And Job used to be a VP of product at GitLab. So coming off from the fully remote distributed world, what were the pains of building a company such as that from the scratch? And on my end, I was coming up from the other end, which was you're office-bound company and culture where hiring the best talent is not easy because you're in a country like Lisbon, in a country like Portugal and Lisbon, where at the time it was like 6 years ago, or we started remote 4.5 years ago. So when I joined my last company, like 6-7 years, it was not easy because Lisbon was not what it is today in terms of reputation for entrepreneurship and being a bit of this tiny center of the world for a lot of different cultures and people to explore their company building ideas. And so it was hard. If I wanted access to the best talent in the world, I couldn't. And so the more we talked about what ailed us, the more we realized that we're meeting in the middle. And it was this: solving, global employment. How do you help find people, pay people, manage people, get them what they deserve, and help to, equalize and redistribute wealth across the world? Because even though talent is everywhere, opportunities are not. And so we wanted to bridge these, and thus we started remote in January 2019.
See, I love this, Marcelo. One of the things that you mentioned, that how many years did it take of just kicking around ideas before this took hold with remote?
Somewhere between 11 to 12 years.
Wow. See, because
Wow.
you know what? This is what I like doing about this. It's behind the scenes stuff where oftentimes you hear a successful professional, top executive, what have you, and you just think, oh, wow, they just went right up. Like Mark Zuckerberg is uncommon, where you get right out of college or you even finish college, whatever, and all of a sudden super successful his whole career. But you don't really hear stories like this, like 12 years in the desert, figuring out what to do. What do we want to do? Building stuff. Nothing's really going. You're not selling anything. And how did you have the fortitude then to keep going on and not just give up and say, you know what, it's 5 years, 10 years. Like, all right, let me try something else.
Fun. We were having fun.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Like
Yeah.
we would build a new product maybe every year, sometimes less. In that, some completely different use cases, different profiles. And we were having fun. And it was amazing. We'd learn new technologies, meet new people, just pure hacking away stuff, sometimes over weekends, putting stuff together. And that was it. But we also knew that even though we had fun doing them, they were not worth pursuing as a full-time thing. And I think it's a side note, but I believe it's one of the issues that many startups face, which is they have this idea over coffee with a few friends, and they think it's an idea worth putting all your cash reserves into, while actually it's a feature, it's not a company. And so all of a sudden you're pursuing something, putting a lot of money into it. There's really no market for it. And so we had a strong realization of, we wanted to build a great company, a big company, a good company. But a great company is only built on top of a great business. And so we could actually raise any money we wanted, but if we did not have, a great business, we would just burn through it very fast. So that is the sort of the drive for us to spend so many years. Of course, we have a great relationship as friends, and that helps fundamentally. But behind the scenes, that's about it. And until we found remote as the one thing, the idea that was worth it all. Put all your effort behind, to focus all your energy and life behind. That was it.
While you were working on different projects, did you have like a regular job at the time? You
Yeah,
and job? Okay, so you did
yeah,
have some money coming in, so you had
yeah,
the luxury of saying, okay, I'll get some money in so we could still tinker and keep trying. But you didn't want to just roll something out. You really wanted to wait till you had that aha moment where like, okay, this is not a feature. This is something that could be big. This could be
yeah,
something that was huge. And it was worth waiting 10, 12 years
yeah,
to hit.
absolutely,
Gotcha.
absolutely. We had regular jobs, and
Right.
so we would often just burn the midnight oil, working on stuff, building things, because we were having
Mm,
fun, and that was essentially it. The we when we started remote was a dad.
mhm.
I was becoming a dad. My wife was pregnant, 6 months pregnant. And so it was, you should, those decisions are not easy to make when all of a sudden you're going to say, now I'm going to stop making money to support my family and start a business that I'm not sure is going to go anywhere. And we all can end up bankrupt. So that's the reason behind,
Yeah.
being, and I think it's also what separates often good investments from bad investments, even from a personal standpoint, right? Because not everything is a company. It could be a good idea, but it doesn't mean that a good idea is worth money.
Now, I'm curious, did your background first in academia and consulting work help you identify what had market potential, what could be a business? Because, to go from a passion to being able to kind of identify what could be its own startup and then eventually a company and eventually a multi-generation business is quite challenging, and not everyone has that skill or that ability to see that far ahead. How are you able to do it? Because
And that's a
fast
great
forward to
question, right? It
today,
is, right?
like fast forward today, it seems obvious, right? Like great valuation, great market, thousands and thousands of clients, but I'm sure 10, 12 years ago, it probably wasn't that obvious.
No, it was, to be honest, it was. So
Hmm.
Wow.
let me without looking to trying to look not very obnoxious here, but
Big, you could be obnoxious. It's okay.
uh,
If you haven't
very
been on the,
well.
if you haven't been on the on the blind app, they're comfortable with obnoxious, and
Uh,
yeah, don't worry, it's all good. They like that. It's cool.
so in 2012, when we first started to have discussions about what we could build together, our premise was that when you're looking for a job, and when a company is looking for a candidate for a job, I would say that 99%, the company is not finding the best person for the role, and the person is not finding the best job they could find. So this is exactly what started our first, very scrappy idea of a job board. That was it. What we had in
Mhm.
mind was finding meaningful opportunities for people and finding, great talent for businesses across the world. And the premise, actually, as funny as it is, still holds. The biggest problem, but of course you have LinkedIn and you have other job boards that are massive, but they fail to capture the essence of what it is, a global market. You could have a company in whatever country, and if you're looking to hire locally, even if we're talking about the highest populated cities and countries in the world, your talent pool is maybe 1%, if it's a high population city, of the whole world. And so your talent pool is by definition, even if you're the most populated country, city in the world, it's by definition reduced. So your odds at one finding the best job in the world or finding the best candidate in the world are reduced to 1% of the global opportunity pool. And so when you think about this, and we're talking the biggest country cities and countries, when you're talking about the average, it's probably like 0.1% or something. And this is the harsh reality that we came to solve. Then fast forward shit ton of years, and that's it. That's it. Today many companies are by default global.
Mhm.
When you start business, honestly, you don't really care who's going to pay for your product or service, as long as they're happy, they give you the money you're asking for, and that's awesome. Same with building a company. In most cases, you don't really depend on a physical presence. Of course, some do. If you have behind the counter operations, or a warehouse, some physical interaction of some sort. Yes, of course. But even so, many businesses do have a physical front desk, but then a lot of people that don't need to be in an office to be efficient and to make the business working well. And that's what made it also successful. See, because we tapped, it's not like we can say, like we're going to say that, no, we found the 1% and we got through. No, we went through the 99%. That was literally it.
It makes a lot of sense, Marcelo, because give you an example, I've run a search firm for the last 20 plus years, and I'll get these assignments to work on. And if it's not remote and it's in office, it gets really challenging to find that person. You could have the great job, but it's in, located whatever city, whatever state, and then you're prisoner by how many people are within commuting distance to go there. So it narrows down the pool of people substantially. And then here in the US, what happened over the last bunch of years, a lot of talent moved, and a lot of companies moved out of, let's say, New York City to go to, other states that cost less money, and they go to other countries, so that it makes it even harder to find people. So what you did is say, wait a minute, let's go just global. So now you don't have to worry about someone who has to take a job because they just don't want to drive or commute more than half an hour or 40 minutes or an hour. So you can work remotely anywhere. And that's right. That's what so like you place people basically anywhere in the world, and they could work anywhere in the world for any kind of company. Is that?
Yeah, we help in through us. Yeah, it's not even about placing people.
Mhm.
Companies often find people where they come to us for some reference. And you may have a company in the US that is expanding their operations across the world, and either they want to hire full-time people in Europe, or they're just expanding their operations, for instance, into Europe. And if they want to go full-time, of course they can come to us, and we help employ those people, right? You give full benefits to people. These people are not just freelancers or contractors. At the same time, some companies, what they do want is a short-term fixed interaction with someone, and we can help with that too, where you just pay someone for a certain job and that's it. Or actually, what happens many times is that companies start to explore country X, Y, or Z, and out of after a couple of years, they have a big enough of operation where they create their own entity there too. And then we help run payroll locally. And all at the same time, you want to manage people in a single platform, all the people that you interact with, that you employ or pay, and you do it through remote. So it is indeed the mission that we wanted to build, where if you were talking to any small business owner, all that I just said, 5 years ago would be a huge mess. Like, how am I going to pay someone in a currency I don't even know anything about? How I can't employ people in a country where my company isn't in, because like different labor laws and corporation ruling, and so you legally can't do it. So you wouldn't. Many companies were bound by their own country by default, by limitations, statute limitations of each country and geography as well. And so we created this sort of highway through which you can, manage people, pay people, employ people across the world in many different forms and shapes, in a way. The payment, not the people, and that makes it much more equal and balanced, because you're not singling out the talent and the opportunities to big, populated areas, but you're actually putting everyone in the same playing field. So if you have a company, this is very common, where you're starting up, you don't have a lot of money to pay, your first employees or whatever. You can actually get one of the top, person to help you with a certain job, but that doesn't mean that this person is next to you. And you can actually find the best person for that job for that amount of money that you can pay them across the world. Whereas, 5-6 years ago, you'd have to, just relinquish that sort of job to someone that doesn't really care about it, is not really into it, and probably is not the best for your business either. And same on the opposite side, where people would have to, take whatever jobs they could get, and essentially conform to whatever was being offered locally. So you bridge these two and you have the best of both worlds.
Is it also kind of an arbitrage at play, where a company may say, hey, we'll want to put people in a certain location, maybe Asia, Latin America, Middle East, wherever, because it's less expensive to have them there than to have in the US or England or Canada? Is that a decision that a lot of companies are starting to make, to say, hey, this seems a way that we could save money, but still have the best talent?
In a way, it's true. Of course, what we see is an equilibrium, right?
Mhm.
There's a balance that is being struck. Of course, when you have, the world is not all the same. You don't have the same opportunities, the same pay in every city in the world, every country in the world, not even the same region, or even in the same, within the same country, let's say. And this is inequality. And so this is what, this global platform and employment solves, which is you put everyone at the same field. And of course, it's about the companies to decide how much they want to pay, what are they interested in, and less about picking the geography, but about saying, look, I have 80K a year for this job. I want the best person in the world that I can find for this pay. And then you can find people all across the world that are willing to take a job for this kind of pay. At the same time, you can also say, well, but what if you say you want to pay only 10K for this, role? Sure, but then you can't forget that people also have access to the opposite, which is companies that are willing to pay much more than their local salaries. And so the demand and supply balance out, the bad players in the market, right? The companies that are trying to lowball people,
Right.
and the people that are just trying to get, the salaries that are completely insane for certain areas. Of course, you can't pay, San Francisco salaries all across the world. It's just not financially doable, because countries work differently and have different industries and benchmarking as well. But it's certainly a force for balance, much more than anything else. Of course, if you have companies, and also, by the way, countries do have regulations and labor laws to prevent people being paid below certain thresholds and guarantee right to certain benefits and statutory complements and salary as well. So that is protected by a safety network in a way that is intrinsic to every country.
That has to be the biggest headache, huh? I remember, I think I spoke with Yob, and I want to say Nadia, your HR person, but I
Yeah.
think she moved on. And all I could think of is, oh my gosh, how do you deal with all the rules, all the compliance, all the taxes, all over the world? It's like, you that now, as an engineer, you're not really doing that. But I imagine that's probably like is that probably the hardest thing for your company to do, just to manage all those and make sure you're doing it right?
That's the one thing that actually, when remote started and still today, why we're so different and
Mhm.
why we have the success that we have, because we're the only company in the world that built from the ground up in every single country. We absorb the knowledge, we have the knowledge of every single regulation, every single regulatory body, every single geography. And yes, it's very painful
Yeah.
because it's very in-depth work and very lengthy work too, as you roll out to the whole world. But we go through the pain of it so that others don't. And so that's how we build our business, making sure that we own and we understand what are the limitations, the requirements, the rules to play with in every single geography, to make sure that we provide the best product and an excellent service behind it across the world. But at the same time, with the realization that companies that come to us and say, look, I want to hire Martin, who's in Spain, and we met last week, and best person for this job. My company is I don't know, the Philippines, and I want to hire this person in Spain or France, whatever. And sure, you go through our platform, we take care of everything. We highlight the most important things that you need to take care about, things that you need to pay for, the limitations of the country, the possibilities and flexibilities, and we create the guardrails so that you can work within these boundaries. But we are the ones that actually build it and understand it and explain it in a way that it's just simple and straightforward, so you don't have to worry about it. That's the best part, where we know the details, but you just need to know, cool, I'm going to be able to work with this person on this side of the world, and that's about it. So we simplify and we abstract all this complexity, but that's what makes it worthwhile as well. Otherwise, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Now, your business by its nature is necessarily global first, distributed first. We have some aspiring startup entrepreneurs, founders in our audience. And oftentimes they think about, oh gosh, like which market should I actually work in? And they instinctively think of a developed country like the US because, oh, it's such a rich country, it's such a huge market. And then they kind of struggle and figure out, oh gosh, like my business is doing well, my startup has made some traction. How do I scale this into something that's global? So with your expertise kind of from the other way around, and working and helping so many companies do this very exact thing, can you share this like insight or this kind of insider's tip into knowing when it's the right time to kind of bring your startup or bring your company to that international level, whether it's that new market or that hiring job market that's out there? And how do you navigate that?
When we started remote, we didn't know that it was going to be, a big company, an evolving company across the world. Just
Really?
two two dudes. That was it, right? It could end the next day
Yeah.
or next month, whatever it was. We never went to the US to build this company. Actually, we first 3 years of the existence of the company, never left Portugal. Also the pandemic and whatnot. And so even through that, we built a distributed company. Today, we still don't have a single office in the world. We're 1,100 people across the world. We never had an office. So if we're able to do that, that means anyone can. Anyone can build a global business from day one. It's about doing the right things, the documentation, understanding that different time zones exist, that the asynchronous side of work exists and can be very productive too, but it requires you to document, to communicate properly, to set the right expectations, and also to understand what is exactly that you want to achieve at the end of the day, and with your business too. That is the most important thing. Now, if you're building it from the US, from Portugal, from the Netherlands, from, I don't know, often, in many cases, does not matter unless you have a physical reason, unless you need to be close to a certain kind of businesses or industry to sell to them. It, of course, helps if you have a close network of entrepreneurs, of investors, but you don't need to be there. In our case, we raised several rounds of investment. They never met our investors. Only this year, I actually met the board members of Remote, physically meeting them. And it's been almost 5 years. So that means you can actually build a big company, globally distributed. And it's not about, a safe pass that I got from somewhere for someone. No, it's because we did the things that made sense to our business. And often there's this illusion that if you're close to a certain centers of population, that you'll be more successful. There's no data to back that up. Now, there is something to be said about networking forces and what that does for your business. Maybe it can be a catalyst for certain things, absolutely, but it's not a prerequisite. It's not a fundamental requirement for success. Because if you're building a proper business in a company as well, you can probably do it from anywhere. And then also the downside of being in certain population centers is that it's very expensive. Money comes in and money goes out. And so you often can have the best of both worlds if you travel, if you have a balance where you live and you travel every once in a while, if that makes sense to you as well.
It's so trippy because having 1,100 employees, no home office, is like this new era, right? Where it's just global. You're not attached to Portugal. You're not attached to the US or England or wherever it is. It's just, hey, we're everywhere, which is like you're doing it. So you're taking it for granted. But I don't know about you, Rick. I hear that. It's like wild. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of blows your mind a little bit. Like this is an entity where it doesn't even have like an anchor, doesn't have a home office, doesn't have like it doesn't mean you have to go to the office, but it's out there. It's wild. It's really, it's a little mind blowing. But hey, let me ask you this. I'm so curious because we here in the US, we tend to just be very introspective. Like we think like we just look what's going on here. It's a big country and a lot going on. So it does keep us busy. But to look outside, do you have any, and I think this is great, I think for the listeners and people watching it, and then they'll watch it as we replay it. Like, are there themes you're noticing? What jobs are hot? What jobs are not hot? What countries are like really eager to hire? What countries aren't eager to hire? Because this would be really helpful because here in the States now for white collar professionals, it's not going so great. There've been lots of layoffs. There's hiring freezes. It's very slow. It's really tough. So they're looking to see like, what can I do? So do you have any suggestions? What countries might be really hiring like mad? What industries, what sectors, what jobs? So this could be really super helpful for people.
In general, what you see is that the world since, the last couple of years, well, to be honest, the past 5 years hasn't been in a great place. Every year there's something new. And at this point, besides aliens, I expect anything. And even that was a surprise last month. But
how funny is that? By the way, how funny is that? The US government is like, hey, they're aliens. And we're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. at this point, after like, global pandemics, world wars,
Yeah,
aliens, sure.
sure.
What's
No
there
biggie.
not to believe, right? Is of course going back to the state of the world,
Yeah.
we're facing not to be all doom and gloom, but there's of course a global pre-recession or recession, whatever you want to call it, technically speaking, and that is making a lot of industries contract or at least slow down. At the same time, what we see is that bigger companies sort of slow down. They reduced burn. They laid off a bunch of people. But we also see that on the flip side, investors are still interested in investing within a certain margin of safety, and usually eager to invest in smaller businesses, more affordable, that you can start. And so you have this recycling of the economy, which happened in a previous global recession too, where people that were affected by layoffs and other forced reductions, they started new opportunities, new businesses, and follow up these new trends, and ended up building new companies that today are quite successful. And you see this loop, this big cogwheel turning as well in that sense. And so on a global scale, you do see that tech is always tech. It continues to evolve quite well, all the AI stuff, but it's not limited. And what I've been able to see is that the unemployment numbers don't make a lot of sense globally compared to the state of the global economy. You'd expect, at least in the previous recessions, that unemployment would rise as the economy goes down, and it's not following that trend. The economy is tanking, but unemployment in some areas is not really, is flattening out or even improving, which is can be only attributed to the fact that the people are no longer just bound to the local economies. So if country A is going through a rough patch, and you're actually working remotely for whatever country and whatever company in the world, it could so be that money is not as scarce in those sides of the world. So this averaging out also smooths some edges in these areas too. But the best part that we see is that you're starting to see some job opportunities within the global hiring pool, job platforms that are unexpected. Job ads for doctors because of telemedicine and stuff like that. New opportunities that are rising from this global need for support. People are no longer close to the main centers or just close to the main centers. That means that you have to service people anyways. If you have them and the people have the need, companies will pop up and will create more opportunities. And so I'm seeing this trend quite aggressive, actually, where even career changes are happening later in the career stage. A few years ago when we started remote, I would hear, I was interviewed a few times, and then people will say, well, remember this one news reporter that said, well, it's kind of weird. I'm 50 plus year old. I'm not going to change my career now. If I lose my job now, where I'm going to find a similar job. And I said, have you looked online? And then I pointed out to a couple of remote work job boards, and they were like, oh, wow, actually not too late. And you see this change in the mentality of people, where the biggest change that you can see is people can actually take this opportunity and stop working to live to work. It's a big shift where you don't have to just focus on, I have to live so I have to work so that I can survive, but actually I can take pride in my work because I can pick the best thing that really fulfills me. And the company doesn't need to be next
Mhm.
door, actually can be whatever else.
Gosh, I mean, I can see why the company has been so successful, right? Because you've been able to paint this like pretty empowering vision and mission for the company, right? That it's beyond the complexity of just paying people and paying people on time and doing it, legally in the right way. But it's almost a mission of like economic empowerment, right? Where you're actually freeing people to do higher level things and the things that they actually want to do. So, I mean, I think that might be not to put too fine a point on it, but it might be the key to the success, right? For this wannabe or soon to be startup founders listening, it's not too challenging what I'm hearing to take on something that just sounds so big or sounds so complex. Or, I mean, I don't want to tease you, but sounds too boring, right? Just like HR and doing it on a global scale sounds like a big yuck for some people, but you dove right into it, and perhaps that's part of the magic there.
Absolutely. Look, you're giving people back not just money but time.
Right.
Right? Commute, the amount of hours that people spend commute per week at the end of the year amounts to almost a month of time off. Right? It is a lot of time that we're just wasting. So you're giving all this time back to people and also the opportunity to make a lot more money. But of course, these matters if you talk about, payroll, if you talk about paying freelancers, contractors across the world, wiring money, registering time off. I don't know, understanding who's your line manager, and how do you document, feedback and performance. Yeah, it's not rocket science, absolutely not. But because there is no good solution for it, and because it's painful, that's why we were able to build a good product. And so you're able to fix several different things at the same time. You fix a business area with the best product you can possibly have in it, and at the same time you build a very solid business. And so, because it's hard, and people often are, you will pay the hardest, the worse the pain, the more you'll pay to get it fixed. That's the logic behind it.
That yeah, talk about pricing power with
Yeah.
HR then. No, I'm curious because you have this great global perspective across industries, certainly across, nations and regions and geographies. Um, you know, we see a lot of companies push their employees to return back to the office to really focus on like on-premise work for at least, a few days of the week. Is that going to be the new trend going forward? Or is that specific to certain industries or even, is it just maybe a certain country phenomenon? Like, do you have an understanding there of what is going on behind all of these kind of, it almost seems like dominoes decisions, right? Where one company announces something and, other companies follow along.
This is part of an industry revolution in a way, right?
Okay.
When we went through the pandemic, every company was forced to go into exile, remote work.
Hmm.
Most companies up until that point would say, we don't believe in remote work. If you want to stay working from home today, sure, but I don't really trust that you're doing much. There was a lot of distrust. And then throughout the pandemic, a lot of companies realized, well, actually, we can operate in this function. And the third hit was, wait, but this actually requires some processes, documentation that we don't have in place because we're not that well organized, or because we never took the time to document it. It was just, word of mouth. You pass by someone in the hall, and they're like, oh, how do I access this program? Oh, you go there and you click this, and you never take the time to document it. So you're faced with a decision. either you reap the benefits of remote work and you have to put in place the discipline, the documentation, the processes to maintain productivity and sometimes even increase it, or not, or you depend of a physical place to conduct your business. The only determining factor for why companies go back to an office or not is because of their leaders. There's nothing else. Nothing else. In several cases, there are very expensive leases going on, but no, sometimes, and there's this, sort of confusion between what is culture and what is an office. An office is not culture and vice versa. A culture is how you conduct your business, how do you go about your day-to-day job, and how do you turn, human brain power into money. That's what culture in an office, that culture in a company is. An office is where you do this work. For some companies, they try to, they decide that actually some leaders decide that they need that to function at their best, right? That they either don't have a conducive environment at home, that they feel the need to have people around them. And for some people, that's perfect. That's awesome. But what with the proof that we got is that it is doable to build a business in whichever form you choose to. And there's no predetermined factor of success that's going to say you're going to fail or not based on how you build your business. And then, a lot of companies were concerned because people didn't want to go back to an office, and they were not forcing people back to an office. Until then, you see a couple of very prominent media present people that were like, no, we have an office, you work in an office, because in fact, it's easy for that person to manage that business in that way. This usually comes from poorly structured operations, but if it works, it works, and that's fine. Whatever works for these people. And so they start to push people back into an office and say, you have to come back or you're fired. And some people went back. And other companies were met with such a force where leaders were like, okay, so we can actually do whatever works as long as you come to the office a few days, because we still want to maintain a physical place. From our perspective, neither of these, three options is right or wrong.
Huh.
You have businesses that are office bound, that are employing people across the world with us. Companies that are fully remote, that never leave the same country because they don't need to. Everyone is working from their house. So the reality is the same, just with different perspectives, and there's space for it, literally everyone. Well, a lot of different learnings and different beliefs too, but at the end of the day, it's just another way of working, and it's doable. But companies realize that they can't force people, because people now have other options and can just pick to work for. I end up this call right after I can have a call with someone and apply for another job. There's nothing stopping me for doing that. And the reality makes it very fair for both sides.
What you said just makes a lot of sense, right? Because it seems like the current narrative is, it's almost this big tug of war between people that are going to, embrace this newfound future of remote and distributed work versus kind of these like so-called boomers that just want to kind of look over your shoulder and make sure you're on premise. And it's almost become a debate, but really what you're kind of enlightening is it actually has to look down to what your company is trying to do, right? What are your objectives? What are your resources that you have? If you find it challenging to work remotely, perhaps it's a chance to look internally and say, oh gosh, like it's likely because of the processes or the current realities of how I run my business that's led me or almost forced me into making that decision, rather than, oh wow, I can actually take this as an opportunity to build that infrastructure perhaps, or maybe just take the easy way out and hire Marcelo's team, right, to do it for you, and unlock that potential, right, and give you that optionality to kind of again empower you to do something else.
Absolutely.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. I think that is a kind of good kind of paradigm shift for a lot of people in terms of how they see work, and certainly whether that's the future of work or gosh, even the day to day from here on out. I really appreciate these insights, Marcelo. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. So, hey, we'll log off in a second, but dude, I really appreciate you. That was fantastic. I love those insights.
Always.
This is great. This is
Nice.
great.
Good.
Excellent. Hey, you know what? Just one quick question. We're still kind of streaming that. Hey, anything next? Like, or you just keep building?
We'll keep building.
Okay.
I mean,
All right, now that everyone's landing on the moon, so is that like the next spot where you're going to get people?
It
up
could
there?
be. You have to tune in because there may be a few surprises outside of this planet.
right?
All right.
Spoiler alert.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for your time. This was
worries.
awesome. This was super helpful. I love it.
Likewise.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marcelo.
Bye.